Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing every book I read in January and February. I've read 19 books so far this year, which honestly is a lot for me. Something has just come over me this year where I cannot stop reading. I mean, I always read a lot, but my Kindle has been surgically attached to my hand the past couple weeks. And I've also just been reading a lot of good books. So let's talk about them. I started off the year with an ARC, Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine. This comes out April 25th, which is kind of weird to me because it's very wintry, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The main character in this, Margot, is a romance author, but she's very disillusioned with love in her real life. She actually doesn't believe in happily ever afters. So for every romance book that she writes, in a personal Word document, she writes an alternate ending. So if in her romance novel, the couple gets married and lives happily ever after and drives off into the sunset, in her document, he will go bald and then cheat on her. And it's just her way of coping with writing all of these love stories when she doesn't actually believe in them. And unfortunately that document gets leaked, and that causes a lot of distrust between her and her audience. So in order to make a comeback, she decides to switch from romance to murder mystery, and her sister books her this writing retreat at this remote resort in Alaska for like 6 weeks. She really doesn't want to go because her sister has a chronic illness. I believe it's an autoimmune disease, if I remember correctly. And so Margot is her primary caretaker, and she really doesn't want to have to leave her for that long. But the sister convinces her to go, and when she gets there, she meets Forrest, who is the son of the owner of the resort, and he is also a caretaker. He has been taking care of his sick father. I really enjoyed this one. I really liked the setting a lot. I'm a sucker for any book where they're in a unique setting. They're on vacation, they're on a trip, they're away from home. I just love a fun setting. And there was also these weekly challenges that she had to do, like hiking and ice fishing and stuff like that, which was also a fun addition to the story. I also really liked how the author balance all of the tropes in the story. It's called Any Trope But You, so obviously it is a very tropey story, but because she's a romance author, she's very aware of it. Every time something cliche happens, she acknowledges it. Like at one point they have to cuddle for body heat, and in her head she's literally like, I cannot believe I actually have to cuddle with this man for body heat. Like, this cannot be real life. And I really got a kick out of seeing all of the tropes and her reaction to the tropes. I also really liked them as a couple. I liked specifically that since they're both caretakers, they both understand the commitment that takes and what you really have to give up in order to be someone's caregiver, which I thought was really beautiful to see. The one thing I didn't love about this one was the build up to their relationship. I didn't really love their dynamic at first. They like meet and they don't get along, and then they start to get along and you think it's gonna be good, and then they have a fight and something else happens, so then they're not good, and then they're into each other again. It felt very back and forth, and I didn't love that. I would have preferred personally if it was maybe just more of a slow burn as opposed to them getting together early and then being apart and back together again and flip-flopping. But I did end up really liking this in the end. I gave it 4 stars. Very cute, fun romance with a little bit of angst. Then I read Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This is the 3rd book in the When in Rome series, which is a series I really like. It's set in this small town of Rome, Kentucky, which is basically southern Stars Hollow, and it follows a group of siblings. Each book is a different sibling. I loved the 2nd book in this series, Practice Makes Perfect, so I was so excited for this to come out, and it did not disappoint at all. I adored this literally from page 1. I loved it. I think on page 26 I did a Goodreads update and said I was already obsessed. I just loved every single second of this. This follows Emily and Jack, and they are rivals. They meet in college and they don't get along, but then they keep ending up together. They have insane invisible string energy. Like, that song was actually written for them. They have the same major in college, so they end up in all the same classes. They end up working at the same frozen yogurt shop or something. They end up teaching at the same school, and he had moved away like a year before this book takes place, and he was engaged, but his engagement falls through, so he moves back to Rome and ends up being her neighbor, because the universe literally cannot keep these two apart. It's crazy. Even though they are rivals, when they're separated, they both just find that they are pulled to each other and just have been thinking about each other even while he's away. But what they don't know is that they are both also secret authors. She is a secret romance author on the side, and she's been writing this romance novel, and she hasn't told literally a soul about it. And he is actually a really famous mystery author who is like a complete bestseller, but he writes under a pen name. And one night she accidentally emails her romance manuscript to the principal of their school, and he's very old-fashioned, so him getting her smutty romance book is not ideal. And so she enlists Jack to help her try and get the manuscript back before he can see it. Guys, I love them. I was so feral over this book. First of all, neighbor authors, okay, beach read. I was obsessed with their dynamic. I felt like their enemies to lovers was warranted and fun, even though it wasn't anything crazy why they don't get along. I don't even remember why they don't get along, but it's like something silly. It's not anything crazy, but just the way they go back and forth is funny. They sort of like prank each other. It's lighthearted enemies to lovers, and the author doesn't try and make their conflict something that it's not. It's petty why they don't like each other, and that's it. It's not like, oh, this one thing happened that was literally so minor and was like a 3-minute interaction and now we hate each other. It's more of a lighthearted enemies to lovers, which I really like. Their banter, it was insane, very funny, very quick-witted. I loved the back and forth that they had. Also, Sarah Adams has done the impossible. She made me love a blonde man. This man was so hot. There's a scene where he comes outside and he's only wearing black athletic shorts and glasses. Do I even need to say anything else? Please. He rides a motorcycle. A second grade teacher, a hot second grade teacher who wears glasses and rides a motorcycle and is a secret author. If you fit that description, DM me. I'm so dead serious. I loved him so much. There also isn't really a third act breakup, which I will always be a fan of. And there was just something about this. I just was so emotionally attached to them, both separately. And I was kind of surprised because you just don't really see a lot of Emily in the other books. And I just didn't think I was really going to care about her that much. And I was wrong. I was so emotionally attached to them. I was crying. I don't know. I just loved them so much. 5 stars. Probably my new favorite in the series. I think this series just keeps getting better and better. I loved this. Then I read 2 more arcs. I'm sorry if that's annoying. I just had a bunch of them sort of backed up and I had to get through them. So I read My Best Friend's Honeymoon by Meryl Windsor. I did not like this at all, unfortunately. I think this author is maybe just not for me because I have tried to read another book of hers in the past and DNF'd it. So I think that she's maybe just not for me, but I did not like this one. Which sucks because on paper, this is the kind of book I love. It follows Elsie and Ginny, who are childhood best friends. And Elsie has been in a long-term relationship for like 6 years, and her fiance basically springs a wedding on her and is like, surprise, I booked a wedding venue for 7 days from now, get ready. And Elsie basically realizes that she has taken a back seat in her life, so she calls off the wedding, but the honeymoon is already paid for. So her fiance tells her to bring her best friend Ginny, but Ginny has been in love with Elsie since they were kids. That's why I thought I would like this, because childhood friends to lovers set in this beautiful resort vacation vibes is so me, but I just did not like this at all. I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters, and I felt like their relationship came out of nowhere. I know that Ginny is in love with Elsie, and when you're in their point of view, you see it, but it just felt like their relationship came out of nowhere to me. They're on this trip and they're acting normal, like besties, and then all of a sudden they're hooking up and they're in love. I didn't feel like they had any character development really at all, or anything that would like lead me to truly believe that they were falling in love during this trip. Ironically, I think Elsie's ex-fiance had the best character development out of anybody in this book, and he's not even part of the main romance. I don't know. This just did not work for me personally, and honestly, if I wasn't reading it for NetGalley, I probably would have DNF'd it. I just wanted to finish it so I could give it a review, and I don't know. I didn't like the pacing. I didn't feel like they had a connection, the connection that they should have had after 15 years of friendship. I didn't like the third act conflict. It just wasn't for me. The one thing I did really appreciate about this was the representation. It's, if I'm remembering correctly, Elsie's bi, Ginny's non-binary, they're at an LGBTQ plus resort. The side characters also had really good representation, which I love, but unfortunately that couldn't make up for what I didn't like about this. Okay. Also in January, I re-entered the Fourth Wing universe. Now, I really liked Fourth Wing. I think it's really fun. If you don't know, which I'm sure you do, it's set at a war college for dragon riders. The main character, Violet, was supposed to be a scribe, which is like the librarian, historians. She ends up a dragon rider. It's very high stakes, sort of like Divergent with dragon riders. Her love interest is her enemy because their parents were on opposite sides of a war. You get it. I think Fourth Wing is really fun. Iron Flame, however, it was such a chore for me to get through this. First of all, it's thick. I actually tried to read this a few months ago, read like a quarter of it, couldn't get into it. So then I reread Fourth Wing and came back to this and still couldn't get into it. So I was just gonna give up on the series, but then when Onyx Storm came out, I just saw everybody talking about it and I got FOMO. So I tried again and did end up finishing it. I can't really tell you anything plot-wise about these stories because I feel like it'll spoil the first book. But basically in this one, she's in her second year of the school, and then also there's like a war brewing. Y'all, this one just was not that good. I'm sorry. I felt like Violet and Xaden were fighting about the same thing for 500 pages. Their romance in this one was so whack. I genuinely was not even rooting for them at all at the end of this. I was like, if she gets another love interest, I won't even be mad because they are just annoying me so bad. I also was very confused. Even though I had just reread Fourth Wing, I felt like I had no idea what they were talking about for so much of this. There is just so much going on. There's so many characters, so many different places, so many different terms for everything. Like every character has a name, a first name and a last name, and they go by both. They each have a dragon that has a name and a different type of dragon. They also have a signet, which also has a different name, and there's just like so many countries on the continent, so many characters. It's just a lot to keep track of. You can call me stupid, whatever. I was very confused personally. This was just a lot. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars because once you get into it, probably halfway through, it did get better and I was more into it. But this is definitely my least favorite one of the series so far. I really struggled to get through it. And then Onyx Storm came out, so I read this one as well. This one was so much easier to get through. I still was a little bit confused on some parts of it, but definitely not as confused as I was in Iron Flame. This one was just a lot more fun, had more going on, different characters and just the character dynamics. I thought Xaden and Violet's relationship was way less insufferable in this one. I feel like at this point in the series, they're pretty solid. Like they get along, they're not fighting as much. You actually finally get to see them actually just be in love and not argue about the same thing over and over again. So that was very nice. Also, Riddick, I love you. Go out with me. And I did end up having a really fun time with this one. And the ending is also kind of crazy, so she got me. I'm gonna have to keep reading this damn series. I have Stockholm Syndrome, but this one was fun. You just have to get through Iron Flame first. And then after that, I needed sort of a palate cleanser. So I decided to reread Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I just always need to be rereading an Emily Henry, and I love Book Lovers. I feel like Book Lovers does not get the flowers it deserves. I love it so much. It follows Nora and Charlie, and Nora is a city girl through and through. She's a workaholic, she's a shark. She's inspired by Parker Posey's character in You've Got Mail, and she is the classic Hallmark trope of her boyfriend leaves the city to go to this small town on business and falls in love with the small town girl and breaks up with the big city girlfriend. She's the big city girlfriend that keeps getting dumped for like the Christmas tree farm heiress is what she says, which I just love. I love that Emily Henry can take a trope and turn it on its head. But even though she is a New York City girl through and through, her younger sister convinces her to spend a month in Sunshine Falls, North Carolina. And when she gets there, she runs into Charlie, who's a colleague of hers, but they do not get along. They had a really bad work lunch like 2 years before this, and they just left a really bad taste in each other's mouths. But he is also in Sunshine Falls for the summer, so now they're stuck together in this very small town. I love them together. Their banter and their flirting and their tension, actually insane. And they're just so... I don't even know how to describe it, but she thinks that she is the wrong kind of girl and he thinks he's not worthy of that, I guess, and they just see each other for who they are and really love each other anyway. I just love them. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. I just love them. I love this book. I think it's so fun. They're working on this manuscript together. She's doing all these like bucket list items that her sister gives her to complete in this small town, and they're just one of those book couples to me that are soulmates. Like, they just belong together, and I love seeing them fall in love. I think this was my 5th time reading this, which I'm aware is insane, but I don't care because I just love them so much. And then I also read another arc. This is the last one, I think, I promise, but Promise Me Sunshine by Kira Bastone. But actually this one is already out by the time I'm posting this video, so you can go read this one right now. The main character in this one, Lenny, is grieving the loss of her best friend who has passed away from cancer, and they were more than best friends. They were basically sisters, best friends growing up, extremely close, so she is understandably really struggling struggling with this, and she's just a mess in every sense. And she gets a job at babysitting for this young girl, and the love interest is the little girl's uncle, and he also has had a lot of experience with grief, so he kind of realizes what she's going through and offers to help her because he's been through it himself, and he sort of just takes her under his wing. And she has this list called the Live Again list that she made with her best friend before she passed away, and it's basically like a bucket list, and so he's also helping her get through that list. It's also set in New York City, which I love. This one did take me a little bit to get into. Plot wise, it gets started right away, but in terms of their romance, it definitely is a little bit more of a slow burn. It's extremely platonic until like 30% through the book, which makes sense because she is going through so much and she's grieving. Romance is not the first thing on her mind, and I appreciate a slow burn, so it didn't bother me too much, but it definitely does take a while for the romance to even be an idea in her head. But I loved watching him take care of her and help her through her grief. I felt like the dynamic they had was really special, and it was also just really nice to see her heal. Starting off the book such a mess and so distraught and in such a bad place, and just watching them come together and her healing and getting past it and dealing with her grief, I really liked. I was sobbing actually while I was reading this book, like heaving sobs, tears streaming down my face. It was so emotional, but really good. I think I gave it 4.25 stars. I started off February with a really anticipated new release, Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. This is the companion novel to Out on a Limb by her, which I read last year and loved. This is Win from Out on a Limb. This is her best friend Sarah and her husband Caleb, and it's a marriage in peril story. They've been together forever. They're high school sweethearts. They've been together for I think 17 years, but Sarah has really been struggling lately because she doesn't feel like she has anything that's hers. They're wealthy. I think he comes from money, but he's also like a tech bro who has a company, so she doesn't have to work. They don't want kids. She doesn't have any hobbies, anything. She just doesn't feel like she's a real person because she doesn't have anything for herself. And so the one thing that she does want to do is host a charity event for ALS because her mom passed away from ALS years ago, and the charity event ends up not going well. They are not going to reach their fundraising goal, and Caleb swoops in and saves the day and donates the money that they need to reach the goal. But this actually upsets her because she wanted it to be just hers, not theirs. Even if it failed, she doesn't care. She just wanted something that was all hers, good or bad. And she tries to explain this to him, but he just doesn't really get it. They end up having this big fight, so they decide to go on this hiking retreat. It's like a hiking camping trip, but one of the women that lead it is a marriage counselor, so they decide to go on this trip to work out their problems. I really loved this. I felt very emotionally attached to them immediately. I think Hannah Bonham Young does that really well, where she just makes you care about her characters so much. And it was interesting because Caleb is completely blindsided by this. He thought everything was fine, and he doesn't really want to change because he thought that they were good where they were, and he just is like, how did I not know that you were feeling this way and you were so miserable and I had no idea? And it's just startling to him that they were on such different pages and they really don't know how to go forward and fix it. But one thing that I loved about this is that these people love each other. Even though they have all these problems, it is so clear that they have a deep love for each other, and that their goal is to work out their issues because they love each other so much. It was also just really refreshing to see such an honest, realistic portrayal of a relationship. As much as I love a tropey romance, it's nice to see two people who have problems, are doing what they can to come together and work through it and really communicate with each other and find out what's going on and find out how they can fix it. I think some people could think that this is boring because of that. I personally didn't find it boring at all, but I could see because it's not super like tropey and fun and in your face, maybe some people wouldn't like it, but I loved it. And something about this just really hit me. I was tearing up every 10 pages. I don't know if I was PMSing or what, but I genuinely could not stop crying reading this book because I just felt for them so much. I felt so attached to them. Another book that also doesn't have a third act breakup. Something happens, so there's drama, but it's not a breakup, which again, I love. Then I did another reread, All Roads Lead Here. I went to Washington to visit my mom. She lives there, Washington State, and I literally went on one hike and I was like, I have to reread All Roads Lead Here. Genuinely, I stepped stepped foot into the woods and I was like, I need Tobias Rhodes in my head again immediately. I just love this book. I think this was another book I've read like 5 times. I am never gonna stop being a rereader, okay? I'm just not. I've accepted it. The main character is Aurora and she is recently divorced, and so she's starting her life over. She needs a fresh start. So she decides to move back to her hometown temporarily, and she hasn't been back there since she was 12 because her mom went on a hike and went missing, and so she ends up an orphan. She has to leave and go live with family out of state, and so now she's in her 30s and she decides that the place she wants to start over in is her hometown in Colorado, and she rents a garage apartment, and the love interest is her grumpy landlord neighbor who is a single dad. He has a teenage son. There's just something about this book that is so comforting to me. Maybe it's just because I've read it so many times at this point, but I just love it. It's one of those books that I can just picture in my head so clearly, like a movie, and I just love the characters so much. I love the setting. I love that it's outdoorsy and she's going on hikes to feel closer to her mom. I love the relationship between her and Rhodes. It is such a slow burn. Mariana Zapata, the queen of the slow burn. They literally don't even kiss until I think 90% of the way through this book, and I really enjoy the relationship she has to his son. They're both musicians, so they bond over that, and I just love this book. It's just such a comfort read for me. It never gets old. And then I also decided to reread Wait For It by Mariana Zapata because after I finished All Roads Lead Here, I was thinking about Wait For It and I wanted to do a reread. This is kind of similar to All Roads Lead Here trope wise, but also very different. The main character in this one, Diana, has custody of her 2 nephews because her brother passed away, and she moves to this new neighborhood, and the love interest is her neighbor, and they're like enemies, I guess. I don't really like that conflict, to be honest, in the beginning of the book. The reason why he doesn't like her, I don't know, it's just like a little much for me personally, I thought. But it's a pretty small town, and he's also the boys' little league coach, so they end up eventually making up and getting along and becoming friends. So it's kind of similar, like neighbor, single parent, slow burn, similar vibes. I do like this one. I don't like it as much as All Roads Lead Here, but I do enjoy it. What it is I feel like All Roads Lead Here is just a better version of this, if that makes sense. Like, now that I've reread this, I was like, you know what, I probably won't ever read this for a 3rd time. I would rather just reread All Roads Lead Here. Not to pin 2 queens against each other, they're both good books, but hopefully you know what I mean. I think this one just feels a little bit too long, and like I said, I don't really love the way that their relationship starts off. I really like her nephews. I think they're super cute, and once Dallas, that's love interest, once he actually warms up to her and gets involved with her and the kids, he is really sweet, and I do like their dynamic a lot, and I do like their relationship in the end. I also read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. If you are a Deep End hater, this is not a safe space for you. I'm kidding, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I personally loved this. I'm obsessed with it. I think it could be my new favorite Ali Hazelwood. I don't know, it could still be loved theoretically, but I loved it. I've seen so much discourse around this book, and honestly, I don't understand it because I personally loved it. This is set at Stanford, and Scarlett, the FMC is on the diving team, and the MMC is a swimmer, and it is a little crazy how they get together. Basically, Lucas was dating one of Scarlett's teammates on the diving team, and I don't know how to describe it without it sounding insane. Okay, Scarlett is on the diving team with Penelope, and Penelope is confiding in her one day, ends up mentioning in front of Scarlett that Lucas is into some kinky things, some BDSM, and Pen is just like not into that, and so they're in like a weird place in their relationship, and Scarlett's like, you know what, I'm actually into all that stuff if you ever want to talk about it. So they do, and then Pen and Lucas end up breaking up, and then the 3 of them are together at one point. She's like, you know what, you 2 should hook up because you're into the same kind of stuff, you guys could have fun. And he's like an Olympic gold medalist, so he can't exactly just make a Tinder and start sending out messages like asking for this kind of stuff. So they do decide to enter into this friends with benefits situation so that they can both explore this side of themselves. A lot of the discourse on this book I've seen is like, people think it's either too kinky or not kinky enough. I think personally, for what this story is, it's a good level. They're like 21 years old. They're young. This is their first foray into this type of thing. The first time they're able to really explore it in full. And I also think for readers, if this is your first time ever reading about stuff like this or coming in contact with that community, I think it's very educational. They talk about it a lot. Communication and trust is everything. I think it's it's really healthy the way that they go about it, and I personally also thought it was hot, so I'm satisfied. Personally, I know that's going to be very different for everybody and everybody's gonna have different feelings on it. I personally am in camp. I liked it and I thought it was well done. I also just really liked their relationship. Besides that, I really liked Scarlett. She's a workaholic perfectionist, and Lucas is sort of like that quiet, brooding hotness, but also like really sweet when you get to know him. And I actually was obsessed with him. There were so many quotes in this book that I had to take a second. There's one in particular, which out of context is not a spoiler. I asked for you. Genuinely closed the book, put it down, stood up, ran around my room giggling, and then came back and kept reading. I genuinely had to take a lap. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. It definitely had 5-star potential. I just think towards the end I wasn't obsessed with how everything played out in like the third act conflict and all of that, but I still really loved this one a lot. Also, if you do want to hear any more of my thoughts on Deep End, Out of the Woods, or Beg, Borrow, or Steal, I did a reading vlog where I was reading new release romances and I read those books for that video. So if you want to hear me yap about those books even more, you can go and watch that video. I also read another Hannah Bonham Young book, Next of Kin. The two main characters in this one each have custody of their siblings. So Chloe finds out that her biological mom has just had a baby that she cannot take care of. So Chloe is trying to get custody of her newborn sister, but she's just graduated college, and so they're not sure if financially she'll be able to handle it. And then the male main character, Warren, is trying to get custody of his teenage brother who's deaf, but he's having trouble finding housing. And I don't know if this is a thing that happens in real life, but in the book, CPS is doing this new thing where they match up caretakers. So it basically just works out to benefit both of them. Chloe has this big apartment. She has 2 extra bedrooms that Warren and his brother can move into, and then she'll have that backup of financial security, and so they move in together, and it's the 4 of them. This was really cute. I just love Hannah Bonham Young's writing. I haven't read a book by her yet that I didn't like. I love a forced proximity moment, and they just really come together and become the cutest little family. Just like watching him help her with the baby, and she knows sign language, so she gets really close with his little brother. Their dynamic is just really sweet. But then you also have on the other side the stress of them trying to get custody and her having a newborn and all of this stuff. It was the perfect mix, in my opinion, of fluffy romance, and also there's some like real shit going on here. My cat wants to come in. Hang on. Film my video with me? Oh, you're so cute. This was also a really easy read, quick read. I think I finished it in less than 24 hours. I had a really good time with this one. Oh, you want to say hi to my friends? Oh, no, you want to punch me in the face? Say hi. All right. I also read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This is a Sleepless in Seattle retelling. Yeah, I love Nora Ephron. Those movies, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, and When Harry Met Sally, are 3 of my favorites. I watch them constantly. So when I saw this, you know I was excited. This also came out right after I got home from my trip from Washington, where I watched Sleepless in Seattle and then went to Seattle and ate at one of the restaurants that they were at. So it was just perfect timing for this to come out, but regardless, I would have been excited anyway. If you know the plot of Sleepless in Seattle, this is pretty similar but also different. The main character in this, Lucy, is a single mom, and her daughter calls into a local radio station for dating advice, but it's dating advice for her mom, and Aiden is the talk show host. So they get talking one night, and that part, finally a Nora Ephron retelling that actually gives Nora Ephron. If you know Sleepless in Seattle, the scene where Meg Ryan is driving in the car and she's listening to Tom Hanks on the radio talk about his dead wife, and she's driving and it's at night, you can see the tears streaming down her face, and just the feeling that that part of the movie gives me is what that part in this book gave me. Just hearing her talk about love really got me. The way she feels about romance and love and dating is so similar to how I feel, but I have never really been able to put it into words, and so reading it on the page like this just really got me. I think that section specifically could be one of my favorite book moments ever now. I loved it so much. And then after that conversation, the clips of her on the radio go viral, and so the radio station invites her to come in a few nights a week and do the show with Aiden, and Aiden's supposed to help her find love, and they take callers and she's going on dates and he's helping her find love, and he is the complete opposite. He is at the point where he doesn't even believe in love anymore, which is ironic as someone who hosts a radio show about love and dating, but he just doesn't believe in it. He's very cynical, and then of course behind the scenes they end up falling for each other. I really loved this. I do think some of the execution could have been done a little bit better. I really liked the plot of this and both the characters and everything, but I do think as it went on it kind of lost it for me a little bit. The first third of this book I was like, oh my god, 5 stars, I'm so obsessed, this is gonna be like my new favorite book ever. And then as it went on I still really loved it, but it did lose me a little bit, but still so good. This is just one of those books that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time, and I know that I'm going to be going back and reading my annotations for it, and I just love a Nora Ephron retelling. A Nora Ephron retelling is going to do it for me every time. I also read The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. This is a new novella from her that just came out. I love Abby Jimenez, but I'm a little iffy on novellas. I don't always love them, so I was kind of nervous, but I ended up really liking this. Very quick read. I think it's less than 100 pages, but I felt like she was able to accomplish a really cute romance in such a short amount of time. Charlotte and Seth are neighbors, and there's this mishap at their apartment complex, and the construction company removes their stairs by accident. It was supposed to be somewhere else in the building, and so they're both stuck in their apartments for the weekend. It's like one of those apartment buildings where there's like an apartment on each side and then some space in the middle and the stairs are gone, so they can't leave, and they end up spending the entire weekend together. Seth is kind of going through it because he is recently divorced, and then Charlotte's going through it because she actually has a stalker that she's been dealing with for the last few years, so she is very wary of men and just her safety, and she's like not really super thrilled about being stuck with this random man for the weekend, but they end up spending a lot of time together, and it's really cute. I loved this a lot. Again, I don't know how she did it in so few pages, but this was such a cute romance. I would have happily read a full-length book with these characters. Then I read the Off-Campus series. I am aware that I am literally 10 years late to reading these, but I finally did it. I've been wanting to read these for so long and just haven't, but they announced that they are making them into a TV show, and I am just the most have to read the book before I watch the movie type person, so it finally gave me the push to read these. If you don't know, this is a hockey romance series set at a college. They're extremely popular, so you probably have heard of them. I know that I am so late to this, but it's 4 books. Well, it's actually 5 books. There's a book that's a sequel that has short stories from all the couples. I have not read that one yet. I will, but I read the core 4 books, and each book follows a different guy on the hockey team, and they're all roommates in this house off campus. That's why it's the Off-Campus series. The first one is The Deal. This one follows Garrett and Hannah, and Garrett and Hannah have a class together, and Hannah is like the only person in the class who's passing, and so Garrett is begging her to tutor him, and she could not care less. She does not want to give him the light of day. She's like, leave me the hell alone. I don't care about you or the hockey team, like, go away. But he notices that she has a crush on this football player, and so like, you know, I know that guy, like, if you tutor me, I'll help you get in with him. And so she caves and she ends up tutoring him. I really enjoyed their dynamic. I thought they were really funny together. They had really good banter and they were really fun, but they also both have like tragic backstories. She was sexually assaulted at a party in high school, and so she's still dealing with that. She doesn't really like to go to parties. She doesn't trust a lot of people. She doesn't really like going out, and it's really affected her sex life. And he has an abusive father. So on one hand, this is a fun college romance, bantery. They're going to class, he's playing hockey, she's a music student. Then they're also helping each other through these really dark things that have happened to them. I really liked this a lot. I kind of thought I wasn't going to. I think just because they're so hyped up, I got nervous and I didn't think it was actually gonna end up being that good. When something's really hyped up, I kind of go in with lower expectations, but I ended up really loving this a lot more than I thought I would. And these books are so addicting. They're so easy to read. I read all 4 books in like a week. I just could not put them down. The next one is The Mistake. Follows another one of their roommates on the hockey team, John Logan and Grace, and they randomly meet and hook up, and then he basically drops the ball bad. He says something that he just should not have said, and it really upsets her, and so they don't speak for like months, and then he has to get her back. This one I wasn't a huge fan of the plot. I didn't really like that whole dynamic that they have going on. It's just not for me personally, and I liked Grace. I wasn't obsessed with her, but I didn't have have a problem with her, but I loved John Logan so much. I loved his character and his backstory and his storyline. He has issues with his dad. His dad's an alcoholic and he could go pro with hockey, but he feels this responsibility to his family, and I really loved his storyline. This one's also shorter. I think it's the shortest one in the series, so you don't get into it as much. Still enjoyed it, just not as much. It would definitely be like lower in my ranking of the series, but still addicting. I couldn't put it down. And then the third book, The Score, again, another roommate, Dean, and Allie, who's Hannah's best friend. I've been really excited for this one because I knew it was coming, and I was interested to see how they were gonna play this out because Dean is a mega playboy. They all kind of are, like the reformed playboy, frat boys with a heart of gold kind of trope. He is like a womanizer for sure, and so I wasn't really sure how they were gonna pull off his own love interest in the book. And Allie is very blatantly not his biggest fan the entire series, so I was very excited to see this dynamic play out. But what happens is Allie breaks up with her on again off again boyfriend, and she really wants him to leave her alone because she knows that if she sees him that she's gonna take him back, and she doesn't want to do that. And so Hannah offers the off-campus house to Allie and is like, pretty much everybody's gone for the weekend, just Dean's there, we're gonna yell at him and tell him not to hit on you, but if you want you can stay at the house for the weekend and then the ex-boyfriend can't get to you. So she does that, but of course they start drinking tequila and they hook up. And so this starts a friends with benefits, but they're keeping it a secret from everyone because they just don't want to hear about it. Basically, they know all their friends are gonna have something to say and they just don't want to deal with it. They just want to do their thing and have fun. Well, actually Allie wants to just do her thing and have fun, and Dean, totally out of character, becomes obsessed with her and like loves her and wants to date her. I really liked this. I was really happy with the way them getting together played out. I thought it was fun, the little illicit affairs vibe. The ending to this book though, actually insane. I did not see that coming. It has like this crazy plot twist that I was not ready for. Very sad. I do think like I struggled a little bit with the way that Dean reacts to this. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it gets very angsty there at the end, and I just was not expecting that, but I did end up really liking it, and I thought they were really cute together. I don't know, I just had a really good time with them and seeing them get together. The scene where Hannah finds out is so funny. I just love this. And then the last one that I read, because I still have to read the 5th book, is The Goal. This one is John Tucker. I don't know why there's John Logan and John Tucker, like it's confusing, but John Tucker, he is a sweet southern boy. I was also excited for his book because like I said, they're all kind of like playboys, but he's the sweet one. He like cooks everybody dinner and it's just more private with his relationships and stuff. He's like the sweetie pie of the group, so I was really excited to read his book. Turns out he's a freak. When you get into that POV, he's a little bit wild, but this one has a trope. Actually, let me see if the trope is in the description. Okay, perfect. The trope is in the description, so I'm not spoiling it, but this is accidental pregnancy trope, which I was not expecting at all. You find out at the end of the 3rd book and my jaw was actually on the floor. I was not expecting that at all. This one, unfortunately, is probably my least favorite of the series. So basically what happens is Tucker has a one-night stand with Sabrina, who is kind of a villain in the rest of the series. Not a villain, but like she has beef with Dean, so she gets painted in this light that she's like mean and a bitch basically. But you find out she has a really bad home life and she is hustling so that she can go to law school. She works like 3 jobs, takes all these classes, hustler. Her and Tucker end up having a one-night stand and she gets pregnant. And the trope isn't even why I didn't love this that much. I actually kind of like the accidental pregnancy trope, but this just didn't work for me. This was the only book in the series that I wasn't dying to finish. Like I can't put it down. I actually struggled to get through this one. I thought about DNFing it and then I just felt like I was in so deep that I decided not to. But honestly, like I don't even know why exactly this didn't work for me. I think they're a cute couple and in the end I was rooting for them and it was cute to see them have their little family, but I think it was maybe a pacing issue or just their dynamic. I'm not exactly sure, but this one unfortunately didn't do it for me. I still ended up giving it 3 stars because I enjoyed parts of it, but definitely my least favorite of the series. And then last but not least, I am trying to be the kind of person that likes this series so bad and it's just not happening. I read ACOTAR probably 2 years ago at this point and I honestly really didn't like it at all, but then everyone says that this one is so much better, and so I knew I wanted to try and read this eventually. And I was talking to my friend a few weeks ago about it and she feels the same way that I do. She didn't really like ACOTAR, but she heard this was good and wanted to read it, so we decided to buddy read it, which was actually so much fun. I've never done a buddy read before and I'm really glad we buddy read this because honestly I probably wouldn't have finished it if we weren't, but that was just like a fun experience. Okay, I'm scared. Be nice, y'all. I think my problem with this series is that I hate Feyre. I'm sorry. I tried to understand why people are so in love with her and I just do not get it. I think she's so annoying. I don't think she's like this strong, badass character that everyone makes her out to be. She literally had one cool moment in this entire book. Look how thick it is. Most of the time, she's insufferable. The saving grace of this book is Rhysand. And even then, like, you know what it is? I think if I had read this series years ago, maybe when I was younger, or if it was like the first romantasy series I've ever read, I think I would maybe like it more. But the whole time I was reading this, I just kept thinking that there are romantasy books that I've read that I like so much better than this, and it's so long and I just don't really care. I don't know. I didn't absolutely hate this one. I definitely liked it way more than the first ACOTAR book. I think there is fun parts to it and some of the storylines were interesting and like the side characters are fun. But in general, I just don't think I'm a fan of this series, which is so annoying because at this point I am kind of invested and I kind of want to know what happens, but I don't know if I want to know what happens so bad that I want to read another 1,000 pages. Right now I'm kind of deciding if I care enough to actually try and read the next one. I don't know. I'm not committing to anything right now. Tell me if you think the rest of the series is worth it, if I'm not obsessed. And be honest, because I know a lot of people love this series, but like, be real with me. Is it worth these thick ass books to finish the series, or should I just forget about it? That was it. A lot of books to get through. Thank you for listening to me yap and yap. If you want to find me anywhere else, I'll have all my other social media down below as always. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.